there. Sorry, I ended the last video short, so this is a fresh new live stream that is my types on Tuesday, which I'm posting bi-weekly now. And this is the first live one in a while, so I'm trying to get in the flow of talking to this box. Um, but hello, people beyond the box, look through your boxes. Thank you for joining us. And yeah, I'm going to answer any questions you have and maybe just do that right now. The first question I had was why do you call yourself Molly the person? We are all people, lol. Yes, yes. We are all people. That is mostly true for those of us who are people. And I started off my very first username on this channel was Molly the INFJ, and then I felt like that was very labely and boxy, and I wanted to open it up for more than just that narrow label because I am first and foremost a person. And my little jingle, when I started coming up with my jingle, at first I was like, Molly, the INFJ. Like I had one kind of for the INFJ. I don't remember what it was, but I'm just like, I don't like this. Feels weird. It just felt kind of um, annoying being like, I'm an INFJ. So I'm just like, I'm a person, and that's definitely true. And that can open it up for just like human topics, like just things that us human people go through and experience, and not limit it to just the Myers-Briggs personality. I like all the personality stuff. So yeah, then I went to Type A Hippie, which I liked that username. Um, People kind of thought it was like Type A Hippie, like typing a person behind that was just the Type A personalities that are like more anal and uptight, meeting the personality of someone who wants to just be free and free-spirited and go with the flow. And the oxymoron within that description, I feel like depicts my personality type because I am a perfectionist, but I want to perfect being carefree and all these things. And so it's just kind of ironic. And anyways, I went with Molly the person just to be cohesive and to go with the theme music that I don't know if you noticed, we kind of recorded a new one. And I'm not so sure I'm a fan of it, so we might do another one because of that perfectionistic type A side of me. I want everything to be perfect. So that answers that question. And I think I'll stick with Molly the person and for a while. So Skating Polly. Hello again. She said, when you're performing live, how aware of how intently people are or aren't listening to you? I watch many of your live performance videos and it's usually so loud and distracting. I always wonder if you're able to turn off your INFJ hyper-aware mind when you're singing. Um, that's a good question. And I've played a lot of really crappy gigs, and I played some really great ones, but my favorite are listening rooms, obviously. Well, actually, not obviously, because Franco's favorite are when there's like a dull roar, so he's not the center of everyone's focus, but he's kind of but people are paying attention, but it's not too like dead nuts quiet. But for me, I do like it. Like I like if you can hear pin drop, because that's where I can focus and that's where I'm in my best headspace. But unfortunately, you can't control anything outside of yourself. You can't control your environment, and people talk. So I've had a lot of gigs where they're quite noisy, or even have had some experiences with hecklers. And honestly, just the amount of times I've played out, I've kind of built up the endurance to get through that and to kind of focus on my music and what I'm performing. But to answer your question, I do notice and I am aware of how many people are listening, and I can tell if someone's feeling it and maybe if they aren't. So and that can get in my head, and I've tried to not let it because ultimately um, you can't cater toward everyone because some not everyone's gonna be happy. Some people aren't gonna like it, some people are. If you ask a room full of people who likes upbeat, like what type of genre does everyone like? Everyone's gonna some people will have similar answers, but there's not going to be a consensus generally unless they're all there to see you, which is the ideal because then you can play whatever you want. But even then, people want you to play certain songs that they like if they're like a super fan and play the ones we know, play the hits. So, yeah, I think that that's actually a lesson in life too, to not be catering always toward everyone else because you can't make everyone happy. And there are going to be haters, which I hate the word haters for some reason, but that's just life. And so being able to feed yourself ultimately and not so much look for outside reassurance, that's very difficult. But that's the ideal place to be. Um, so even when people uh, rave or if someone cries from my performance, I used to let that get to me more, like get to my head. I'd be like, "Oh, wow, I made them cry. Like that's so great." And that fed me more. And now I'm just like um I'm a little bit more detached from it, which can feel uh slightly cold, kind of like almost like when I met some people that were some famous musicians and I just raved to them and they're just like, "Oh, thanks." And you can tell they've heard it a million times and it's just like, "Oh, I wanted you to know that you were truly special to me." But they've heard it so many times that they're just immune to it. And I it would be disappointing, but now I'm not a famous person by any means, but just having performed so much, I feel more and working on that skill, I feel like I kind of have that reaction almost where I'm just like, "Oh, thanks." And it's just kind of I'm trying to not let it get to me because if you let the positive things get to you, then you let the negative things get to you, and then you're depending on outside feedback, which to an extent can be helpful if you at times, but ultimately I feel like it just will drive a person crazy, especially if you're in an artistic field. You're supposed to create for well, it depends on your goal because I think you should create for you and for people who like a demographic. I write for people I write for me and also people who might like wanna or need to feel something that I felt. Um, and not everyone's gonna want to be sad, but I like sad songs particularly a lot. So I like listening to sad songs and I like playing sad songs, and not everybody likes that, and that's okay. So, next question. I'm gonna take off my glasses. I feel like there's a glare with the sun. It's interesting too. I feel like the rhythm of my voice right now is sounding a little bit different than usual. You know those days when you don't really talk too much out loud, and then you'll talk and it's like, "Oh, testing 1, 2, 3. Is this thing on?" Oh, that's my auto tune. Okay. It's always especially funny if you talk to someone on the phone and you're like and you just all of a sudden are like, "Whoa, that's what came out of me. Hey, 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 Sonali." She says, "I love your videos." Thank you. I won't let that get to me. Just kidding. But I do appreciate positive feedback still. Also, side note, my love language is words of affirmation, so that can be very challenging to not let words get to me. But it's a part of my growing. I know you said Franco was ESFP, but do you believe that there is a perfect type romantically for an INFJ? I don't know. That's a really tough question because and it I feel like I know where you are, person, Sonali. Because I've been there trying to figure out the perfect person that's connected. Hello, are we on? I got disconnected. Are we back on? Say hello if you are on. Testing. Hello, hello. Are you out there? Okay, thanks, Hans. It's really toasty in here, so I'm gonna turn this fan on. Um, so I was answering the question. I don't know how much of it you heard, but the question was, do I think there's an ideal type for an INFJ? And I feel like that's a question that a lot of INFJs wonder. And it's funny because when I first discovered the INFJ, it's like it's like a specific narrow uh, Google search for yourself. Like now I can further learn just what is just perfectly right for me specifically. So it was kind of exciting to learn about the INFJ. Um, and I did the same thing where I'm trying to figure out what's the perfect match because um, you, especially also reading that the INFJs struggle with they're the most common type to have marital dissatisfaction. I think is something that I read once. I remember that scaring me and me thinking, "Oh, I have to find the perfect match or whatever." But something I've found, not just romantically, but throughout making decisions, is that these expectations that we put so high um, mustn't be so high because they're just going to nothing and nobody will live up to our expectations. And ultimately, even though it seems counterintuitive, uh, it's ourselves that we need to love and feed, and then we will be easier on um, the things that we want in life, if that makes sense. So, um, to answer your question, which I'm like really not right now, I feel like there are types that you specifically might get along with more, and you might be drawn to more sonally. And I don't think all INFJs are drawn to the same type. Um, and I think it just depends on the person because we all have different taste. Like, I love chocolate. I mean, that's kind of an obvious one. You probably also love chocolate, but there are certain things that we specifically, as human people, are drawn to. And I have always been drawn to SP types romantically, and NP and NJ types as friendships for some reason. And I don't quite know why, but I did notice that pattern. Whether it's a coincidence or not, that seems to be what has been uh, my uh, draw of attraction. So I think it just depends on what you want in a relationship and who you're drawn to as a person. But I ultimately think that all 16 of them, could work for you. It just depends on the person, and you kind of learn through dating and experience of what type of person you want to be with and what type of person you might not want to be with. And obviously, there is no perfect human, so recognizing that you're going to have to deal with someone's bullcrap. Like, no matter what, there's going to be something. And so, what is that something going to be? Up to you to decide what you can tolerate, because some people might be able to tolerate certain things, whereas other people don't. So, I guess it's funny, I made a list with my friend Steph. We both made a list of what we wanted in our mates. We just wrote down a list and then we met them just like that. But I'm not saying that'll be so easy. But sometimes it helps to kind of know what you want, but also a person isn't a list. So, and it's funny, on my list I had um, doesn't smoke, and Franco smoked when I met him, and I didn't try and get him to stop, but he had already had plans to stop, and so he quit smoking while we were together, which was quite the journey because man, was he cranky. So they say I've heard a couple things. I've heard ESVP for INFJs, and I've heard ENFPs and ENTPs are great for INFJs. But I think any type, and it depends on what you want in a person and how you connect to them. Because there's also more than the Myers-Briggs, right? There's the Enneagram, and then the sexual social variance, and all of that. And I have kind of wondered if like there is a specific type that's like really perfect match, but I really just think it. I mean, there's so much more than personality type too, how they're raised, um, and birth order too. So there's a lot that goes into it, but ultimately, just getting to know the person and seeing who you're initially attracted to and getting to know how you guys flow together and support each other is the way to discover what your type is. That was a long answer. What do I think about ENFPs? I love ENFPs. I, uh, it's funny because I thought all the ESFPs in my life were ENFPs for a while. So, and then I realized once I met a couple ENFPs for real, I connected when I was connecting all the functions. I started connecting, okay, these ENFPs that I thought were ENFPs are ESFPs. This is not extroverted intuition. Extroverted intuition is the ENFP's leading function, and it's very bouncy and very wonderful. And um, I love ENFPs. I've kind of talked about this before that that is a type that if I could choose what type I would like to be, which I know you're supposed to be happy with who you are, but I would be an ENFP. Um, and I think some of that you can see in my personality. You can see me, like sometimes I might seem like an ENFP, and I actually get excited when people are able to see that side of me because I just adore ENFPs. Um, you guys said yes, yes, and I don't know what you said yet. Oh, that was to if you could hear me. Wow, I'm way behind. Skating Polly, I'm leaving to start college in a few weeks. INFJ, HSP, homeschooled, and Mormon, and going to school 1,000 miles from home, so definitely a little scared. How was your transition? And how did you come out of your shell to be able to make videos and perform live? Skating Polly, congratulations. Um, this is a huge milestone and it's exciting, but it's funny with exciting milestones also comes change, and with change comes loss, and with loss comes grieving. And that's a part of change that people don't acknowledge very much. And we just kind of feel like we're supposed to just be all excited. And that's just not how it goes. Realistically, we're going to experience um, some struggles, especially as an HSP. You might experience some anxiety and some sadness. And that's completely natural, and you can't really fast forward it even if you wish you could. But with big changes, I find that tends to trigger myself as well. Um, during these uh, exciting times, it can be just very difficult because it is a change. And so I guess just noticing the things that you're um, appreciative of and that you have right now and that you're excited about. So the gratitude can go a long way of just when you moved there, just noticing the things that in here. The grass is greener on the other side. Um, I think it can be scary. Of course, it's scary because you haven't done it before. But then once you do it, it'll be like, oh, that old thing later. But my transition with moving to Nashville for the first time, I had a really hard time right before I moved. And then when I moved there, I actually had a really great time because I was excited by the newness, and all the fresh, like, ideas that were coming up and meeting new people, which, to answer your second question, how did I come out of my shell and be able to make videos and perform live? Um, that's a good question as well. I don't know. I just started to do it early on in when I was younger. I participated in theater and different choirs, and I was on the quieter side. That's funny. Choir and quiet. Choir had the same, different spelling, but similar first sounds. I was quiet in choir, and um, at some auditions, I they would always tell me to be louder, and that was very challenging, and it was very nerve-wracking, and it just took a lot of doing it to feel more comfortable, and also sharing when I started to perform as a singer-songwriter, it was scarier, I felt, because I was performing as me, Molly Conrad, and I was not hidden behind a character on in a theater show. It was just, "This is me." It was very vulnerable, and so, but you still kind of form a character, even if you're yourself, because you're going through sort of a filter on stage. There's a different side of yourself that comes out, and it's kind of exciting because you can decide who that is. And I discovered through performing, I started going to open mics. That's how I started off. Open mics, there tend to be a variety of talents, so it's less intimidating because the person before you might not be all that great, and even if they are, um, it's just it's very uh, it changes. What's the word for that? Fluid, um, transient. It's very transient. So there will be many different types of people and skill levels. So going to open mics was a very great way to start. And I discovered that when I was performing, my sort of character on stage was a little stream of consciousness person. So if I was nervous, I would kind of joke about being nervous on stage or kind of talk about what I was experiencing. Like, I can't quite think of an example, but that allowed me to kind of discover how uh, how my stage presence was going to be. I wasn't very just allowing yourself to be vulnerable, I guess, at open mic nights. Oh yeah, my answers are very lengthy. I'm gonna refrain from apologizing, even though that's my tendency. Okay. And making videos is still a very awkward thing because you can look back and you can say, "Oh, I want to delete that," but just the idea of nothing mattering, that kind of nihilistic belief that nothing really truly matters. I can zoom out and then just feel like it's totally fine if I have this awkward video up, if it's helping maybe one person or two, or you know, it's worth it's worth it to me. And ultimately, I know that humans grow and change, and their thoughts might change, beliefs might change. So I'm not stuck and limited by what I said 3 years ago in videos. So just allowing that to kind of let me keep moving forward instead of looking back and thinking, "Oh, should I delete that?" So I don't remember exactly making my first video, what that was like. Well, it was uncomfortable because you're just talking to a box. Again, that's very strange. But I do remember I was so excited about the idea of starting this channel and participating in this MBTI community that I just went ahead and did the thing. INFJ, INFJ friendship. Yes, is my answer. I love them. I have a very good INFJ friend, and it's it's very comforting. We it's nice when you kinda speak the same language and you can just skip ahead and, um, you don't have to translate everything you're saying. So, it's quite nice. Being an HSP can be awkward and uncomfortable. Yes, agreed. Um, and I'm married to an HSP as well, an extroverted HSP, and it can also be very kinda sweet. Like, if we're watching a movie or something, we'll both be so touched, and we'll just be like, "Oh," choked up together, and it's kinda cute and also a little bit weird if other people were watching. Um, is it possible to find a soulmate? 'Cause seems that it's not. I guess it depends on if you believe in soulmates or not. Um, everybody's different about believing in soulmates. Um, I think that we can meet someone who's wonderful, and, I don't know that it's necessarily meant to be, which is what I thought at one point, that it was for sure meant to be, and I was meant to be, um, with this person or whatever. And that is what I associate with soulmates for some reason, being that, like, no matter what, if your paths were different, you would have found each other. So I kind of like having the option that you can somewhat control your fate and find a person that you can coexist with and enjoy life with and support each other. And I think that's soulmate enough for me, having a very deep and loving relationship that's um, yeah, full of the things that you want in a relationship. So, um, David T. You speak in public every week and it kills you every time. Yeah. Have you found yourself getting over that at all? Speaking in public? They say that's like one of the biggest fears of some people, right? When are you getting married, Green Eyes? I'm married already. Done. Check. As of May, I am a married woman. Oh, I know a few, and they're really bubbly, and it seems like their dominant default state, but everyone's different. Oh, about ENFPs. Yeah, I guess everybody's different. The Enneagram, are you guys into the Enneagram as well? Because I feel like that helps kind of specify the different types a little bit further. What's the highest form of intelligence? Ooh, I don't what do you think the highest form of intelligence is? That's a good question. I have a whole theory on moving the camera a lot. I'm gonna try and stick it. You think there are 3. I feel like there are many different intelligences. I really need to find a place to balance this. This is not my intelligence. Spatial awareness? Mm-mm. Here, we'll put you against the bull. I definitely have I'd say I have emotional intelligence. This might be a lot nicer. You won't, like, throw up from watching me talk. There. Wow, now we're all peaceful. So, yeah, I feel like there are many different types of intelligences. I have a video on that, but I don't remember how long ago that was. So, um, one intelligent emotionally and also kind of um, meaning finding, if that's an intelligence, like being able to find the deeper meaning behind things and what's going on for people, and also like maybe I don't know. I don't think that's the highest form though. I don't I don't know if I'd rate them, but I'm definitely not good at like um, memorizing facts and storing facts or some common sense things that I wish that I were better at. That's why I think SPs are very good at. They have a lot of common sense, and I think I'm somewhat attracted to that because I lack it. It's funny that we're attracted to what we lack. All right, so one question I had was any advice for younger INFJs who are entering slash overwhelmed by adulthood? So I guess adulthood is a weird. I wonder what the actual definition of adulthood is. I'm gonna look it up because I think some of us NFs have Peter Pan syndrome. Adulthood, the state or condition of being fully grown or mature. All right, I was looking for like an age, but okay. Well, there's like young adults, middle adults, but I think I know what you mean. You mean like doing adulting, like paying bills, cooking meals for yourself, whatever else you do as an adult. Um, my advice, I suppose something that we have that our generation before us didn't is the emphasis on self-care. Oftentimes our parents might have been told to just give, or look to not care so much about yourself because like that's selfish to take the time for yourself. But self-care is very important, and luckily now there's not an annoying stigma, and going to therapy is actually more accepted, and all of that. So I would say that finding a self-care routine that works for you would be the best way to get through transitions, skating poly, and also like going into adulthood, which is a transition in and of itself. So finding a good self-care routine. For me, I've been a slacking lately and I can feel it. So I need to go back into that. But writing in my gratitude journal every night, 3 things I'm grateful for. And if I'm feeling down on myself, then you have to write nice things about yourself too. You have to. So things that you're proud of that you did that day, or traits that you possess that you are acknowledging are positive traits in a human person. So that is one, gratitude. And then there's mindfulness, which for some meditation, for some prayer, for some yoga, for me, yoga. And also I do martial arts. So having just a sort of routine where you are, oh, also exercise is great, which I need to do more of, but going on walks. So having like exercise, healthy food, mindfulness practice, and a gratitude practice. Those are very important things to just help you get through the day to day, which is so funny because it sometimes it feels kind of sad that it's so hard to be human. Like we have to try and work extra hard to be at peace, it feels sometimes. But when you start practicing that, because our nervous systems are wired a certain way, and we're looking out for saber-toothed tigers because um, our nervous systems are made nervous to be. So then we have to train them or teach them, like, chill out, you're safe. And with that comes practice. And so finding whatever works for you and your nervous system. Some, like us HSPs, need extra tender love and care. And that's the initial. And then, yeah, adulthood can be overwhelming, and learning new skills is hard because they're new and you didn't know them before. And so I suppose for me, I Google a lot of things to learn them, and just don't shame yourself for not knowing it before because you never knew it before. So you're not stupid for not knowing it. You have to not know something before you know something. That is the truth of the matter, and something to remind yourself. Because I think it can start getting overwhelming when you start getting down on yourself for not doing it right. But there isn't just one right way, even though your parents might tell you there is. Um, you can get through this, and you can get through it in your way, and you're doing great. You're all doing great at life. So, yeah, don't shame for not knowing. Jeffrey emphasized that's key. Um, Brene Brown talks about shame versus guilt. Guilt is saying, I feel bad for doing that. Shame is, I am bad for doing that. I'm a bad person. So shame is letting it, um, when you start defining yourself and thinking that you're a crappy person because this or that. And guilt is okay, and you can learn from guilt, but then shame is not because, but don't shame yourself for shaming because it's just very normal to get through that. It's very human. But I guess starting to be aware of those points where you're starting to shame yourself are the first steps to kind of helping get out of it. Self compassion and self love is quite important. Um, EQ and deeper meaning is what you'd say for INFJ too. I once read that an INFJ could look at a waterfall and find the meaning of life. I have the answer, but it's long, and I'd explain it using cognitive functions. Highest form of intelligence for me, a bit relative and not very black and white. Yeah. Cool. Good talk this has been. I have just a few more minutes and then I have to adult and I'm cooking a food. I actually just had an experience where I struggled adulting. Um, I went to the store and I picked out two nice looking salmon fillets, and then they ended up being $17 total, which I didn't know beforehand. I saw like deal of the day, and I'm like, I love a good deal. And then I ended up not really investigating, and it was much more than I had anticipated paying. And so now I feel pressure to cook them just right. Otherwise, then that was $17 gone to waste. So then you can go down that negative spiral. But really, it's okay. It's just salmon fillets. It's just like a silly little thing, but I think it's easy to let that get to us in the middle of a grocery store. I feel the place I feel most insecure is in a grocery store actually, because I'm like, I've been there so many times and still yet I feel lost sometimes. But it's just, I haven't bought salmon fillets from the counter before, and so now I know what to expect for next time. And ultimately, putting a positive spin on it can help me get out of it. Like, they're there. You're eating nice tonight. I mean, this is gonna be a great meal. Yum. It's a treat. It's a treat. Mhm. So anyways, I think that's pretty much all the questions. Um, that I think I answered them all. So, yes, there are many intelligences. That's like a very long conversation we could have about the different forms of intelligence. That was a cool question. Hey, Khaled, you can ask a question. Go ahead. I technically have 5 to 10 more minutes before I need to, let's preheat the oven. So anyone else can ask, you can ask your any last questions. Final questions. Preheating the oven. Also, the adulting part where you get out of toiletries. Like I'm out of laundry detergent. Sometimes that can just be so frustrating because you feel like you check enough things off the list and then there's still more. There are more lists piling onto lists, but everything will pass. So it'll pass, and you're doing great. You're doing the best you can. They're very minor problems I'm talking about, but I know that that can really especially get to people when they're not as natural at it. Kuro, do you decide what to do based on your gut feeling? Because I feel like that works best for me, and I'm wondering if that's an INFJ thing. Yeah, I'm sure that's an INFJ thing, with your introverted intuition. Um, but I don't so much do that all the time. I revert to my introverted thinking a lot of times, and I can get quite analytical and start thinking of trying to over rationalize things when really my gut said one thing in the first place. So ultimately, I feel like listening to your gut is very helpful and will guide you and can help guide you in the right direction. And uh, I recently made a decision where my gut feeling said one thing, and then I just overanalyzed the heck out of it, decided to make the opposite decision of my gut, and then I've been regretting it since. So I think a lot of times our gut knows. The nose knows. So yeah, I think that's smart. So how do I take in information academically? How do you mean? Um, I learn best by reading things. So, but I don't know how you mean to take it in. And I'll read things and then connect them usually. Simon asked, have you noticed any major differences between male and female INFJs? Um, not so much. I'm not too close. I know two male INFJs that I'm not too close to, so I'm not so sure the key differences. Um, but anyways, these are some great questions, and thank you all so much for subscribing and for following and commenting and just supporting. I hope that some of these videos are serving a purpose to you. I've been finding lately that I really want to be purposeful. I think a lot of us do. We want to have a purposeful life, and and I would love to help people in any way that I can, but also just like connect. So this has been a nice way to connect. It's a nice community of fellow MBTI geeks. So thanks for joining, and I really appreciate your support and the 2,000 subscribers. You can't find a question, you're trying to find one. You're trying to think of a question. Now I'm suspense. I feel suspense about what your question is. Um, I can just keep thanking you guys. Um, if you guys have any also requests on future videos, I'd love to hear them. Any suggestions? Um, yeah, someone's mowing the lawn out there. Sometimes I feel funny saying, "Hey, you guys," because you're not all guys. But guys is just kind of like a general, "Hey, guys." I say, "Hey, guys," a lot. All right. So, hey, Trevor. The wedding was good. Hi, Amen. I feel like I always emphasize the wrong part of your word. Amen, amen, amen. Feels right. Good luck for lucky charm. All right. Well, this has been nice. Do it again sometime, shall we? My voice isn't all there. I'm trying to not apologize. I'm trying to apologize less because I feel like sometimes I'll just, like, walk around and not literally apologizing for taking up space, but sometimes even, I'll just be like, "Oh, sorry, excuse me." It's like, we're allowed to take up space. We are humans. We're allowed to take up space literally, and we all are worthy. You're worthy. You're worthy. You're worthy. You are worthy. So, yes. Um, I'm trying to apologize, yes, less for little things. Like, I was going to apologize about my voice because I feel like it's been sounding, like, strange during this video. But it's just because there's not another voice coming back. I feel like my voice sounds different when I talk to different people. Um, and that's always interesting. Like, I like the way my voice sounds around some people and not as much around other people. Right now, I'm not liking the way my voice is sounding around you people. You people. But there's no voice coming back to compare it to, so it doesn't make sense. So, my voice is just fine, thanks. You guys are just fine. These earpods look like earrings. That's hilarious. They're really weird without the wire, but, they're kinda nice, like, because I'm a part-time receptionist, so if I have to answer the tele telephone, then I can take this out and it'll pause my music, and then I answer. It's very, future form, and you can, like, tap to the next song. It's very futuristic, but it's now, so it's how could it be? Uh, they are pretty cool. I got them as a gift, and at first I'm like, "I don't know if I can sport these." They're a little, you know, too future, but the future is now. Okay, have a great day, please. And if you don't, that's okay too. You don't have to have a great day, but maybe tomorrow you will. But maybe you can like focus on, let's all think of 3 things today that we really appreciate, even if it's just our clean water that we're drinking. 3 things. And with that, goodbye and have a lovely or whatever you want Tuesday. Gratitude.